Hi, I'm Elizabeth Ledoux, and I am so happy to be here telling you a little bit about myself and a little bit about this podcast called the Business Transition Roadmap. I'm a Colorado native, grew up in Colorado, and have lived here most of my life. When I was younger, ended up going to Colorado School of Mines, and I got to be a petroleum engineer and drilled oil wells in the United States for a few years before having my first son. And I thought that would be interesting for you to hear just because I am an entrepreneur at heart and have always enjoyed small business and private business. So what I did 34 years ago is I switched my career from petroleum engineering to consulting. And I started working with small businesses internationally. And I've done everything from strategy to transition work to organizational structure and design. Even building financial statements and putting in computer systems. So over the 34 years, I've had lots of experience with small business and all the different aspects that business owners have when they are going through and, growing and building their companies. As I got through that time, one of the things that I found is that business owners really struggle when it comes to business transition. They have a lot of resources and a lot of support in how to build and how to grow their companies. And there aren't a lot out there that help them to transition, and not just transition, but transition well. Statistics show that most businesses, less than 50% of the businesses that get transitioned actually do well in that next generation's hands. And it's an old statistic, but I think it's still true. Many of the businesses fail. And I don't think that they fail because the business successor is incapable of running the business. One of my beliefs is that they don't do well or they don't thrive forward well because the successors aren't ready. So years ago, I created a process, and we call it the Business Transition Roadmap process, of course, where what we do is we help business owners figure out their direction. Which direction do you want to go? And then once they know a direction, we help them figure out how to build a timeline. Because you'll find out that I believe that transition needs to be a timeline, it needs to be a journey and not an event. Successors don't learn very much in an event. It's very short. Successors can learn a lot, and they can learn to run the company really well if it's made into a journey. So when you come in to listen to this podcast, you're going to have the opportunity to hear us talk about starting with the 4 W's. Your why, who, your when, and your what. And there are many whens. Sometimes there are many things, your what, to transition, not just the equity in the company, but knowledge and wisdom and how to do things and finance and taxes and all of the other things that go into working with and running a business forward. So you'll learn about those 4 W's, and you'll also then get into the how and how much, because we believe that a lot of business owners start with how and how much. How am I going to do it, and how much am I going to get, or am I going to do it and get it to maybe a successor who is an internal successor, like an employee or a family member or someone that you know and trust, because maybe they don't have enough money and you're not really sure how that financial transaction is actually going to work. So we'll get to the how and the how much after we get to the 4 W's, because the 4 W's, once you have those, that's what really gives you your direction. And then the how and how much really falls into place. So over the years, what I've learned is that small business is truly the backbone of our communities. The small businesses serve so many people. If you think about it, they serve not only the employees, but provide for the employees' families as well. They provide for the vendors to be in business. They provide for the customers and the clients to do well and to get what they need and want when they need it and want it. They also business owners tend to be very generous. So they're not only giving back of their time in the community, but typically they're giving back money as well. So they're supporting universities, they're supporting kids' soccer, they're supporting all kinds of things that help those communities, including sometimes even the churches. They're doing that as well. So one of my passions is to help owners transition their businesses well and just do it with success so that they are able to move on to their next adventure with confidence and financially sound and with what they need to go enjoy that next adventure, not retirement, but the next adventure because they're entrepreneurs. And then to allow those successors and the businesses to thrive forward really well so the communities continue to grow and flourish. Some people say that it's not always roses, and that is so true. But what I found is that business owners typically will look at their transition and they'll delay it because they don't know what to do. They're not sure how they're going to handle it. And they're trying to figure out, a lot of times they're trying to figure out how to handle the people and what people are going to think, how that's going to work. So an owner will delay and delay and delay until what happens is the transition becomes an event for some reason. Could be that they hit a certain age, could be that there's an illness in the family, could be even that there's death in the family. If that event happens and the business suddenly transitions, it doesn't put the odds in the favor of the successors to run it well. So in this podcast, what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about making business transition a journey where you can start today. And these journeys can be, we build timelines of 1 year sometimes, which is pretty short. And sometimes it's 5 years, sometimes it's 10 years. It can even be 15 years long, where you start your journey, you start to figure out what you want, you figure out how you're going to talk to the people, how you're going to position it, who you're going to talk to, and then create this beautiful journey that you'll embark on. Sometimes the journey is real easy, and always, though, we know that we're going to run into roadblocks and we're going to run into challenges. The goal is to be able to understand where you're going, face the challenges with confidence, and figure out how to get around them so that you can continue to create the business transition that you want. This business transition, many owners will say, gosh, I don't even want to think about it. It's just too complicated. It's going to be so hard. I just can't even think about how I would do it. And in this podcast, you're going to learn how to face those things and also how to make it a fun and rewarding journey. Foundationally, my belief is that businesses will transition. We already know that. And foundationally, my belief is that engaging in this transition is going to be one of the most important things you ever do in your entire career. If you do this well and you can transition the business so that you are financially sound and know your next adventure and are happy doing it and being fulfilled, if you can do that and also leave a successor or successors in place that are thriving forward with a community that's doing very well, then what more success could you ask for than that? So I'd like to invite you to come and listen and be a part of the Business Transition Roadmap podcast. I'm looking forward to helping you to learn and grow, and also to helping you learn from others, because we're going to have a lot of guests on this podcast that are going to be not only business owners who have done this, but also successors who are working on this. And we'll also have some advisors who can give you some great advice in putting people first and making your transition amazing.